Hello and welcome back to the podcast. I am sliding this note at the beginning of this episode because clearly there have been delays. I'm not even sure what day this exact episode will come out. It was scheduled for the 10th. It's clearly not. So we'll see how it goes. The main reason for this was when I originally recorded this episode, there was no audio. I had about 32 minutes of silence, but it seemed like everything was working, so I've had audio issues. Once I did get the episode recorded, there was disaster in terms of trying to edit it with the boulders that we actually had. We had people working on our roof and there was literally no time for me to do it. So for about 2 weeks we had people working on our roofs in the evening, and during the day I would work. So I didn't have time to actually edit. So I've been doing like snippets of editing here, but it's a lot of audio, and then the audio wasn't there, and then I had to re-record and there was no time because there was constant noise or work. So it's been a mission and a half, but I'm finally getting it done. Whenever this is uploaded, thank you for listening. I apologize for the delay, but I'm back on track now. So here we go. I will also say that because of all the editing and stuff, I did record in batches, so I'm editing as I go, so there'll maybe be like 2 episodes or 3 depending on how long it takes for me to actually get all my editing done. But there will definitely be like 1 or 2, maybe 3 episodes if I'm unfortunately late enough back to back that is uploaded and at weird times. So once again, I apologize for that, but we will get back to regularly scheduled uploads on a specific time. So thought I'd just slot that in there. Onto the episode. Thanks. Hello and welcome back to the podcast. This is very exciting for me to record, even though I've had a slip up. The first time I actually recorded this, there was no audio, which was frustrating and insanely annoying because it happened not only now but previously with my other podcast, which was why I didn't upload an episode. And that's crazy. I also have a bit of difficulty recording this because we've got people working on our roof. So there's not a lot of silence. So I'm squeezing in a little bit of time here and there to try and get it recorded and hopefully uploaded in time. I doubt I'll get there, but here's hoping for that. So this is essentially part 1 of 4 in the mental health series that I'm doing this month of October for Mental Health Awareness Month. The point of the series is to just shine a light on mental health. It's been heavily neglected in the past. COVID has, in a beautiful way, actually helped shine a light on mental health for everyone. We've seen all the devastating effects that COVID has had on the world, especially the economies and such, with so many people losing their jobs, their livelihoods, their lives. It's been devastating. And some beautiful things have come out of it. Certain animals returned to their environments. The world reduced its carbon footprint so much due to people not traveling due to travel bans. Because of all the planes being grounded, not as much emissions have been let out into the earth, which was great. People haven't traveled to work and back because of all sorts of lockdowns in various countries at various points in time over the past few months. So that has helped. And a lot of people working from home has also made us more aware of what we consume and how we consume it. Meaning things aren't being imported as much, which is once again a good thing. There has been benefits, and one of the biggest ones has been the mental health awareness that has come from parents working from home, children studying from home. The impact of how our daily stresses affect our minds. And COVID has unfortunately become a thing, but it has also helped shine a light on such an important thing that everyone takes for granted. We always hear about the things that we need to be doing, but no one actually does it. And the fact that we actually have time to work on it has been monumental. We all are actually quite tired of hearing about COVID, and experts on the news have actually said, and I found it very fascinating, that we actually go through something called pandemic fatigue. In its basic form, it just means in the beginning, when the pandemic hit, sirens went off, alarms rang, and we paid attention. We were glued to our screens, listening for the latest update. What's going on? What do we need to do? What is expected of us? And we responded like magic to this thing that happened, and we banded together and wore our mask and, followed all the protocols they laid out. Now, for South Africans, we're about 8 months, since about March, 7-8 months later, and the pandemic fatigue is kicking in, which is where the sirens and alarms are blaring, but we've been hearing it for months and months and months. It's literally a white noise machine at this point in time, and we aren't responding in the way we do it. Like someone says COVID now, and we're like, oh, that's still going on. Whereas in the beginning, someone was like, COVID, and you stopped it up and roll. Like that was how instantaneous it was. And now that we are dying it down a bit, especially in South Africa, where we've essentially become level 1 lockdown, which is where a lot of things have lifted and kind of reopened our lives, we kind of forget about that. And there are some lessons that we should take forward post-COVID life, and mental health is one of those things we should, especially because of the stress hormones that were released in our bodies over the past few months. It is insane. Because your body stresses because of this pandemic, it releases this hormone and it just pushes your adrenaline through the roof, and you are in such a frenzy that when you come down, you can't get it all out of your system because you realize, oh no, I need to go to the shop, I need to make sure I'm protected. That adrenaline and stress hits you. You go to the shop, you come back, relax it a little bit, but it doesn't leave your system because the threat is never over. It's an old way of dealing with things back in the day when the cavemen were still around. It's ingrained in our minds that when there's danger, our body is flooded with these things to protect us. But it's not a physical enemy that we can fight. And that's the harsh reality of this pandemic. We can't see it. There's only so much we can do, and it'll still be around. And once a vaccine is developed, I think a lot of people will be more mentally conscious of the fact that there is something that's like a plan B that they can fall back on. But I think prevention is always better than cure. I mean, the point of having something such as prevention is better than cure is honestly the answer to a lot of things. I know a co-worker of mine who already had anxiety before this COVID thing hit and was on medication because of it, just completely spiraled once we were officially in lockdown. And before the lockdown even happened, she was already like panicking, asking to work from home, didn't want to be out and about. Like, she took it seriously. And when it did hit and we were in lockdown and everything just went south, her mental health also took a dive because she needed people, she needed, to socialize at work, she needed all sorts of things. And the pandemic, sorry to put it this way, it screwed her over to the point where she had difficulty working, and that is not something anyone should go through. And the fact that no one is sympathetic enough to really put it out there and say we need to be focusing on this is sad, which is why Mental Health Month is such an important thing. So I did a lot of research, which is one of the things I thoroughly enjoy doing, and I found a whole bunch of advice that was given according to different medical websites, the World Health Organization being one of the main ones that I drew a lot from. Basically, what you should be doing to keep up your life and mental health throughout this virus and pandemic. And I think this is advice we should take throughout our whole lives, not just this pandemic. So I'm kind of just going to list it off and go through it. Honestly, some of it was stupid and I kind of left that out. But upon further research of some of the topics, they were actually quite helpful. So I'm going to go through it, explain it, and we'll go from there. So basically there are 3 sections for individuals, 1 for parents with children or people with children, and then lastly for older people. So that's the order in which we're going to be doing this. Starting at the beginning, the general advice is to be aware of what's going on in your country with regards to the level of lockdown you guys are in, the advice and recommendations that the government has for you, and keeping up with what's going on in terms of the virus itself. So currently there's vaccines being tested in trials, so they are making progress on the whole thing. But keep up with what's going on in terms of what you are allowed to do, what you're not allowed to do, and just be aware of what's going on. One thing that you should not do is obsess over it. So don't have the news channel running 24/7. Don't have your radio on and just blasting updates the whole day. That's not going to do anything for your mental health, and it might actually just make it worse. Be aware, but not obsessed about what's going on. This next one is honestly my favorite one, and it's Have a routine and follow it as closely as possible in your daily life and as consistently as well. You know, I talk about routines all the time. Routines and habits are my jam. And this is something that I definitely feel is important, especially post-lockdown virus life, because we've had to change everything and we can't go back to the way it was before. So we're gonna have to make something new and better. So kind of think of it like life 2.0. You survived, you moved on, and you're coming out better. And that's kind of what this whole lockdown has been. It's kind of been a caterpillar weaving its cocoon, and once you emerge, you'll be a beautiful butterfly, hopefully. Routines. I mean, figure out your routine, especially if you haven't had consistency. Maybe this is just the right thing to help you. Figure out what your routine should be. People don't travel to and from work, and that saves them a lot of time in their day. I know it does for me. So having other routines to fill that time is a brilliant idea, especially if you've been planning to do certain things like exercise or meditate or do anything like that that's going to boost your mental health. Working it into a routine is brilliant for you. And this also counts for your work day. Having a set routine for your work day is a brilliant idea. It's going to keep you on track, and it's also going to make sure you get up, you get dressed, and you're not in pajamas all day, because that's not good, like at all, for your mental health. Not only is the routine itself important, but the consistency of that routine. It's almost like sleep. If you go to sleep at different times every night, you're going to wake up at different times in the morning and you're not going to feel rested. Try and do things in a habitual and routine way in order to create some consistency, so that you can at least have that feeling of security in that, especially since this virus has pulled the rug out from under us. Having that routine is going to give you a sense of control where you currently feel out of control. That's just going to make a whole lot of difference, especially to the mental health game. You also don't have to overhaul your life if you don't have routines. Figure one out, start slow, think of what you do on a daily basis and in what order you do it, and you'll find you might actually have a routine. If you don't, try something new. There's literally a book called My Morning Routine. I cannot recommend it enough. It is a brilliant book. I've actually passed it on to my mom, so I don't have it near me, but it's the best book. It's got morning routines, evening routines, a website that you can look at. It is brilliant. And it just helps you figure out everyone is different and everyone's routine is different. But you can maybe just incorporate some things or try your own as you go along. Funny enough, the next step I have on my list is get up and go to bed at a similar time every single day. The research behind it is actually all about mental health and brain function, as well as improving your physical health, not just your mental health. If you are someone who has a whole lot of trouble sleeping, very much like myself, try and get a sleep routine going. And a lot of things around this involves dimming the lights, staying off technology, maybe having soothing sounds playing in the background, whatever works for you. Trying to get in a certain zone before you go sleep to try and just help you get there, and doing it at the same time every night. Like I said, going to sleep at different times every night is not doing yourself any favors, and waking up at varied times, not good for you either. So do that. Me, I try and get to bed at the same time every night. Sometimes it's harder to fall asleep, other times not. Funny enough, last night my mom actually made me hot chocolate before I went to go sleep. Knocked me out. Highly recommend that. Maybe not every night, but every once in a while. Works wonders. I literally had sweet dreams, so will not recommend that enough. It was amazing. But another thing is there's an app called Better Me. Brilliant sleep sounds, meditations. It'll definitely help. The next one I thought was very odd, but reading it really just opened my eyes. And the tip is keeping up with personal hygiene. And this would be something that actually seems obvious to a lot of people, but personally thinking about it, people don't even have access to clean running water, so it's already hard for them to just get basic things done for like their food. And now you're asking them to go above and beyond to walk miles to get this water just so that they can wash their hands. Like, it's a toss-up between washing your food and washing your hands. You're gonna wash your hands and then clean your food and then not worry the rest of the day, because water is a precious resource that people don't even have access to. I mean, there's a place, I can't even remember where it is, I saw it on the news. They are fighting with the government to give them water because they are currently sharing water that they fetch from a river that the animals drink out of. There is no water for them, and that's what they have to do, and that is inhumane. But that just goes to show how important it is. And keeping up with personal hygiene is actually very important, because a lot of times people with depression actually tend to not care about their physical appearance in terms of brushing their teeth, brushing their hair, putting on clothes, cleaning themselves. And that is why it's such an important thing to mention it, because it can actually be a sign of depression, not keeping up with your personal hygiene. So if you are in a country that doesn't have water issues, or you are lucky enough to not have such issues, try a bath once in a while. It's very soothing, especially if you put in oils or light a candle or have something smelling nice around you. I mean, even just lighting an incense in your bathroom works wonders. Trust me on that one. Probably the most basic of advice is eating healthy, but the advice listed was eat healthy meals at regular times. And I was like, why phrase it in that way? And then all the research came out. People working from home tend to snack constantly, and the unfortunate thing is it's not healthy snacks. Even at big corporations where they have snacks available for the people that work there, it tends to be unhealthy, sugary, salty snacks. You're eating bad food, you're eating it at bad times because you don't have a strict routine, or because you stress and you stress eat. You're not eating the healthy foods that you need to, and you're not eating at healthy times, which obviously is going to just wreak havoc on your body, which therefore wreaks havoc on your mental health. This actually did gain a lot of popularity in memes, especially at the beginning of lockdowns, where it's like people are like, they call it a pandemic because I eat like a panda, which is like for 12 hours a day. This is once again a whole thing on figuring out routines. Have certain times to eat, have healthy meals prepped or healthy snacks. There are so many no-bake, simple DIY snacks that you can make for yourself, or if you're a parent for your children, you want to model good behavior. Having those things really goes a long way, especially for your mental health. If you putting good food in, you get good results out. So make the effort. You are worth it. Next is exercise. The most basic and boring advice of them all. So let's just go left for a moment. And if a new year, new me attitude is not going to get people to exercise, I highly doubt the pandemic will. That said, the benefits of exercise on mental health is amazing. Yoga, dancing, and walking or running, whichever one you prefer, actually have the most mental health benefits. And even something like aerobics or walking your dogs can do wonders for yourself because of the movements, the upbeats, and the connecting with your pet. So there are a lot of benefits to doing exercise, even if you may hate it. But starting out slow is always a good idea. And it doesn't need to be every day 5 hours. It can literally be something as small as walking around the block or walking your dog every day, building up to something more intensive twice, thrice a week, and going from there. You don't need to still exercise every day, just a few times a week to get your body moving. I mean, even stretching every day is brilliant. I know I did a yoga challenge, I think last month. I didn't mention it, I don't even know why, but I did. And the benefits, not only to my physical health, but my mental health were amazing. And that's just, I think, because one, yoga does a lot of things. I incorporated meditation with it as well, and I still love both of it. But the overall effects of moving my body every day was just insane. The next one is more of a balance orientated tip, if you can put it like that way. It's to allocate time for working and for resting, which essentially boils down to your routine. Have strict working hours and have downtime. Just because you work from home doesn't mean you're on call 24 hours a day. And this is honestly one of the trip-ups I had, especially at the beginning, because I would stay late to do things, even though I wasn't at the office. I would take phone calls out of my working hours, which was not fair. So I actually ended up having a difficult conversation with my brother about it, because he's like, you are working way too hard. Like, this is not on. Afterwards, I was able to put up better boundaries, not answer calls. If anything wasn't done, like, tough, it's out of my hours, And I had to be okay with that. Because when it happened at work, it was fine. I could cut off. But now that I'm working from home, I had difficulty cutting off. And my brother helped me realize that. And it was something that I needed. And I'm much better at it now. But that's just what we all have to go through with this thing. And sometimes we're going to mess up. Some things are going to be difficult to adapt to. But it's the new way of doing things. And we're going to have to just get through it and hopefully learn to get better at it. One beautiful thing of that is we make time to do things at home, or rather to relax better after work. So making time to work is just as important as making time to do whatever else you want to do. So that means doing a hobby, working on a skill, just binging in front of the TV. And it's entirely up to you, because you finally have a bit more time, especially if you are someone like me who did travel long distance to get to work. The hours I've saved have been amazing for my sleep. So I'm honestly terrible at watching TV shows, but I'm getting there. I'll probably make like a thing. I'll probably do a podcast on things that I've liked this year or what this year has taught me, and I'll probably include some of my favorite TV shows. But yeah, that has definitely been something that I've definitely done more of, especially because I don't have to get up early, I don't have to come back late. It's been fun, like very, very fun. Lastly, to wrap up this list, it's what I just said, but weirder, which is make time for the things you enjoy. And this one is more about looking back at all those New Year's resolutions that you made and seeing that, oh crap, yes, time has flown and I haven't done anything. So maybe you did, maybe you didn't, but maybe there were things you were planning to do that you didn't get to, and maybe now's the time to actually do some of those things. Being aware of certain things is very important, and this is where the whole parents and children thing comes in. Social communication and touching base with people is going to be a lifeline, and I think it's something that we can still continue to do. I mean, honestly, petrol is expensive, so calling someone or texting them, much cheaper, but also it's going to also just mean a lot to that other person. So maybe that's something you should do, and especially if you're a parent, modeling that behavior for your children is an awesome idea. And that regular communication is going to go a long way post-COVID, especially when it comes to all those things that we want to do. You'll have it in the bank. Another thing to be aware of is screen time. I know that we tend to have a lot more time indoors, and the best way that we have found to preoccupy our time is computers, PlayStations, TVs, phones. Like, there's no fear of it running out of, battery life. People are going to take advantage of that. So being aware of how much time you spend on your screen, I think, is a very important, or screens, and trying to limit that as much as possible. Like I said, work on those hobbies, work on your health in any way that you can. And we've got all sorts of things that have been upgraded to actually be like, do you know how much time you're spending on your phone? Like, there's an app for that, and it's horrifying, but it's useful. Try and, like I say, build it into a routine or a schedule and be like, I'm only going to spend this amount of time watching a show, or I'm only going to play for this amount of time, and limit it as much as possible, especially before bed, because of all the blue light. So keep that in mind. One way to do this is actually to develop non-tech hobbies. So reading, writing, gardening, exercising, I don't know. Things that don't involve technology and blue light, always going to be a good thing. Think about that. One thing for parents to also keep in mind is routines for themselves around their kids and their kids' routines as well. I know my sister's routines have been severely thrown because she goes to school on and off, almost like a worker on a schedule that's rotating. So she'll go 2 days this week, 3 days next week, and then on and off, back and forth. And that is hectic. So she's 1 day at home, 1 day at school, so on and so forth. And that can be crazy, but we have a routine with her. We get up at a certain time, get out the house at a certain time. If she's not going to school, she gets to sleep a bit late, but they still get up. This is your time to study. This is your time to relax. And she's a very independent person. So I think that is a benefit. But having routines around children are very important. And even post-COVID, pay attention to them. Because while they're at home, they maybe do want a lot of attention, especially in the pandemic. And they need that just for their own security. But having a set routine with them where you actually spend time with them and can reinforce that going forward is going to be really great. Build certain habits with them and routines with them. I know we do a movie night either Friday or Saturday, and we tend to watch an episode or two of a series during the week, and that just kind of like is something we all share, and we do speak to each other throughout the day, even on weekends. So it's always fun for us to communicate. We can talk a lot, hence the podcast. But that aside, we do enjoy talking and having conversations and things. So that is something we do. And having something you can build now for post-COVID is going to go a long way, especially when it comes to communication or playing board games or things like that. Try to not get them hooked on a screen, but rather to talking and engaging with people. And this is definitely something very similar, which is what I'm going to advise on next with the older adults. Keeping regular contact with loved ones, especially older people, is a very important thing. Offering them help, finding out what they need, doing what you can, because sometimes we neglect the elderly, and that is a whole thing for me. I have my own issues with it, but it's something that we all need to address, because one day we'll be old and we will want someone there to help us and maybe just call us and talk to us or bring us some groceries or just spend time with us. So kind of think of it that way. Mental health is different for everyone. Some people have their own ways of coping with it, which are completely positive. Others do a 360 and just spiral. And your mental health is your journey that you need to take, and you need to figure out what works best for you. Sometimes it's yoga, meditation, retreats, smoothies, veganism. That's fine. Other times it's just having a therapy session once a month and moving on. You do you. That is all I have for this week. Thank you for listening. Have a great day. Love you. Bye.